Welcome to Dental Unscripted, where Mike Dinsio and Paula Quinn break down the practice ownership journey, one episode at a time. Starting up, buying, and running a successful dental practice.
What up, guys? How you doing? Another episode of Dental Unscripted. We are right in the middle of Dental Shark Week, bringing it back another year. And this week is all about construction, dental construction. So how to build a dental office, all the questions that go into that, all the concerns, challenges, partnerships, and questions that we could get into. We're going to. And so thanks for joining us again, Mike Dinsio, one of the co-founders of Next Level Consultants and co-host of this amazing program. I've got a request, folks, since we're right in the middle of Shark Week. I've got a request, an ask of you. I really need you to give us 5 stars. Hell, if you want to give us 4 stars, I'll take it. But I want you guys to give us some ratings, review us. I talk to you guys. There's hundreds of you out there. Every single day, I'm getting positive feedback on the program. Yet we only have 10 reviews. What in the heck? Please get on your program, whatever you're into. If it's Apple, Spotify, I don't care. Just hit the 5 stars or 4, whatever. I just need more ratings. All right, that's my ask of you before we get the program started. So without further ado, today, I am interviewing another friend and partner, someone that I've done a lot of business with over the years, a fantastic dental contractor in the Colorado market, Chad Hill with Hill Commercial Construction. Chad, what's up? How you doing, brother? Thanks for being on the program.
I'm good, Mike. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Yeah, man. It's been a minute since I've seen you. You look great. Chad and I did a lot of projects while we were when I was at B of A in Colorado. So he's primarily serving the Colorado market, and he has done some work nationally. And he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to anything really construction related. I ask him questions all the time. He'll can vouch, like, Chad, just saw this, not sure what that is, and he'll pop me off the answer. So today, it's all about Chad Hill and Hill Commercial Construction. So, Chad, why don't you give us just like a literally a 2-minute like elevator kind of pitch on you and how you got where you got and the company and what makes you guys so great.
Yeah, you got it. I grew up in the construction trades. My dad was owned a small residential concrete company. And worked for him from the time I was 15 until 27 when I graduated college. Not a doctor, but took me a hot minute, and got a construction management degree from Colorado State University, bachelor in construction management. Great program, love it. It's one of the best in the country, and it's fed a lot of high quality construction companies, not only in Colorado but throughout the country. I started with a small GC, a friend of my dad's golfing, like, as we all know, golfing for work, right? That does lead to contacts. And it's like, hey, why don't you check this guy out? And I met my mentor. The best part of it was tangible progress. I'd show up. There'd be a bad driveway, a bad patio, bad steps. When I left, it looked perfect. And really proud of the work we did. And I got to work closely with my dad, which was fantastic. So it's funny. You push paper all day and you're like, I don't know if I did anything today, but when I poured concrete, I could walk away and go, that's what I did today. So
yeah. Well, I know that was a special like time in your life because you and your dad were super close. That's special. That's super cool. I didn't know that story, buddy. All these years, I didn't know that story about you.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that when when did Hill Commercial jump into the dental scene?
Yeah, so it's funny. I was doing that. My father-in-law was expanding. He was literally expanding from a retail strip that he had been in for 25 years to a pad site. So my father-in-law trusted us to build his dental office. And we did that, and it was a really easy crossover. So I kind of cultivated that market, did a bunch of work in there while I worked for Vonnie. And then I stayed about 8 months. I did a couple big projects, and I just went to him and I said, hey, I got to strike out on my own if you're going to stay here. I tried to get him to leave, but he wouldn't leave. So with no sense, no money, no idea what I was getting into, I started a construction company. My wife created our logo, which is super simple and super cool. And
here you are. Here you are, one of the biggest dental contractors in dental. I think that's a great pivot point to really start diving into some of these dental projects and all the things that you've learned since 2007 and just all the practices that you've been a part of, the knowledge that you have now from that journey that you just shared to getting into dental. The first question, Chad, that I have, buddy, is, when you're looking at a startup, like a lot of our viewers and listeners are startups, right? And they're trying to figure out where the best place is to go. And they're looking at demographics and they're doing a business plan with me or whatever. And we finally find a space. I think that one of the highest values of a GC is looking at that space and really helping us determine if it's the right space. Can you just get into a little bit of the things that you look at in the due diligence process that you think is important for a dentist to look at, for a GC to be looking at, to help maybe the real estate guy negotiate or for a dentist to think about before they actually take this space on for 10 years or more?
Yeah, 100%. I usually encourage clients, whether they come to me first or they come to me second, I always say, hey, pick 2 or 3 spots that kind of meet your needs, square footage wise, geography wise, demographic wise. I'll visit each one. I'll evaluate each one. I'll produce for you pros and cons of each. Hey, need to update ADA accessibility at location A. Location B is a little too big. We need to see if the landlord will subdivide it. Location C, gosh, great building, good bones, built a little older, probably going to run into some asbestos, so it's going to raise some cost. We look at what kind of infrastructure they have. And so when I say infrastructure, I mean dental, sewer, HVAC units, water tap, what's available currently, and then what are they going to need to put into the space to make it a working dental space.
Love it.
So we evaluate each site, and then I kind of say, here's my thoughts. This is my favorite, but I'm not attached in any way. I'll make anyone work. Just know here are the pros and cons. Some will cost you money, some will save you money, but ultimately location's important, right? Line of sight's important. So
there's a business.
That's kind of how we go about it. That's why we like people early, because the worst thing ever is when I have a client come to me and they say, hey, found a great space, just signed the lease. And I go look at it and I'm like, okay, well, you got a 3/4 inch tap, you've got 100 amps of power, and you've got heating but no cooling. Okay, that's a problem. So that's why we want to be in early.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, because I love that you said multiple spaces. I've found a trend, and I said it in the last interview, that some real estate people aren't doing multiple locations these days. It's like it's too much work for them to put LOIs in multiple spaces. I do recognize that some markets, it's difficult to find space, and I do want to touch on the due diligence of ground up, because sometimes there's no spaces available and we got to look at a plot of dirt. So I think we covered pretty well here on Shark Week with the rest of the contractors around the rest of the country, top top dental contractor in the country. Chad, you got like this Southwest, because Southeast, I don't know what Colorado is. I guess it's West. This market that we've carved you out of for the expert in your area. We covered due diligence on rented space. Let's talk really quick about due diligence on ground up, because I know you've done a lot of ground up in the last 2 years. And I think Shark Week needs to cover due diligence of ground up, not to open up a huge can of worms here. We could probably talk the entire episode just on due diligence of ground up, but you want to hit the highlights on that?
Yeah. I'll try to highlight and keep it concise. What you want to do is you want to look for the right square footage in the right location you want. You want to have a rough idea of how many square feet of a foot, what kind of footprint you need for a building. I think I've shared with you in the past, an acre is 43,560 square feet. A loose rule of thumb, architects don't cringe when I say this, is you take the square footage, divide it by 6, and that tells you what your footprint can be. Now, depending on the zoning, you can go up. You can do one level. You also want to look at soil, right? Whether you've got expansive soil, the history of the property. Did it, get a phase 1 report? So phase 1 is going to tell you, okay, here's what the space was before. Hey, it used to be and the big scary one is used to be a dry cleaners. Well, historically dry cleaners. Yeah. Gas station's easy because you can never sell contaminated soil. So, and I ran into that at my father-in-law's job and helped him get rid of that through Shell. They were fantastic. He had some tanks leak into his property and they remediated all that. No questions asked. So that part's easy, but you're kind of taking the ground as is, and you've got to take the good with the bad, right? So ideally what you want is some good, stable soil that lends itself to shallow footings and shallow walls where you can do a slab on grade. And then it's zoned properly for medical use and you're able to park it, right? It's got the visibility you want. So those are the kind of things that we look at. And then also just price point, right? Because that's a huge factor in overall cost.
I love that. So soil and the right amount of space. I think that's an important thing. And you're right. We've just more recently talked about that. And I think startups are getting more inquisitive about owning their buildings. They're listening to podcasts just like this and the benefits of owning your building right out of the gate versus literally giving $1 million to the landlord. So if they can find something they can purchase right out of the gate, they're interested. The lending is a different conversation. It's always a very big part of the conversation with lending. But if you can get yourself the right amount of money and Chad can build the building for the right price that fits the budget, hell, that's the best deal you can get. So, but then it turns into some kind of investment conversation about renting half the building. And gosh, like I said, we could go down a crazy path here. I want to transition this conversation to this idea of plans to permit. That's the next segment of the program. And I think, again, we've had a lot of conversation about it. There's like this idea where you hire an architect to drive, or architect, space plan, or whatever, to drive the whole project, or the contractor to assist you, or even have in-house this idea of plans to permit. So there's these sections along the way that you got to get it from plans to permit, and then Chad, the GC, picks up and builds. But the plans need to be created. Chad, walk us through kind of like your collaboration with designers, architects, whether you're, obviously you're a big fan of working with them. You don't want to alienate that, but is there a preferred method? Is there challenges, pros and cons of keeping it all in-house? What's your take on it? What's your take on it?
Yeah. So step one would always be, if you find an existing building, get a dental equipment rep that you trust, and they will give you a initial floor plan for free. I mean, it's implied that they do that upfront work, that you're going to buy equipment from them. So they'll do a layout, and I'll tell you what, those guys do each one of those CAD drafts persons does dozens a day. So they've seen way more than I've seen, right? As far as layout works, as far as access, as far as flow of the office, as far as squeaking number of ops in, making sure you account for all the treatment areas and patient areas that you want to incorporate into that space. So that would be the first start, is to just, okay, let's see if this pencils. Because let's say I got a site in downtown Denver, right? Well, that price per square foot is going to be way different than if we are in Timnath or we're in Colorado Springs. It just it makes a big difference. So it doesn't cost anything. You find a GC that you trust and you like, and you can say, well, that's $235 a square foot. Downtown Denver, you're probably $275 a square foot, because I've got parking requirements. I don't have anywhere to put a roll off, so I've literally got to haul trash every night. And I can't parking. You've got to pay a premium for parking. Those things. Now, granted, there's a premium you can charge for your services, but again, that goes along with really the space diligence. But as far as the process and the flow, once we get a floor plan we like, hand that off to an architect that they enjoy working with, and that understands their vision. I always encourage dentists to create a Pinterest board to say, and they seem to focus in on things they love. And I love for them to put things they hate. So I want them to have two folders. I love this, I hate this. Because
that's good.
What they don't like is just as important as what they like, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to steer clear of that. And the architect then takes that vision, and you want to make sure that the architect you hire is somebody that is a good listener and is building a practice that speaks to A, your budget, B, your level of service, and then C, speaks to your vision, right?
I've never met an architect that talked too much about budget. That's a joke. But you're spot on. Absolutely right. I love that feedback on what makes a great architect. In your mind, it's one that communicates super well, is creative, and does have a general sense of the budget. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, you want them to be budget minded, and you also want them to capture the vision, because there's really, guys have, doctors have ideas in their minds of, okay, this is my ideal practice. I absolutely want this. I want a toy, a pediatric dentist. I want a prize bin right here. I want it to be this kind of theme. I love these colors, all those things. And then you get a design back, and it's, when you got the wrong architect, when it's like, okay, I don't see one element I spoke about, and I don't see any, there's none of my vision in this, right? It's more of a monument to themselves. And there's a lot of those out there, a lot of them. Yeah. And so you want to steer clear of those guys. They're usually more expensive, and it's going to drive the cost of the space up. So, and we're always cognizant of, okay, is this a startup doc? Is this a second location? Is this, man, I've had two offices. This is my Taj Mahal, right?
Right.
And I always try to find out from them, okay, what's your hot button points? Like, what do you hate at your current office? Like, what aggravates you? Is your sterilization way too far away from hygiene? Do you not have a place for cart storage? Is your x-ray too close to the front? So you want to think about those things that don't work, because a lot of docs, some of them do this once, some of them do it 3 times in their whole life. They'll do a startup, they'll do a kind of mid-range, and then they'll do a freestanding building. That's kind of the evolution of them. And then you've got the DSOs who just kind of go to town. on those things. But we really kind of focus on patient impact areas and then try to make some zhuzh there. You want to balance the level of the finish of the office with the level of service they provide. So if it's a cosmetic dentist, that build out's going to be different than if it's a general dentist or if it's an orthodontist.
I just literally had a conversation with one of my clients, a pediatric dentist, and he's going to be serving a Medicaid population. And I looked at his Pinterest board, and it looked like one of the most high-end cosmetic dental offices I've ever seen before. And I was just like, hey, maybe we need to talk about what this looks like. I think that's perfect, Chad, that you're getting into a lot of this stuff. My key takeaways is what you don't like. I find that a lot of clients don't go to like a dental assistant friend or another dentist friend and get their opinion, because those poor dental assistants they're putting the steps in. They're going to the sterilization. They're doing all the hard work, and the dentist has their feet kicked up in the back room waiting for their next hygiene exam. You know what I mean? Figuratively. Yeah. But the dental assistants are running around.
You don't have too many cooks in the kitchen, but you want to. Yeah. Where I was going with that was to your point. You don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen, but you do want to involve your key staff to say, okay, where we're at now, or in past offices, what worked well, what didn't work well, right? Again, you don't want 10 opinions, but if you could get 2 or 3 of your top people to say, hey, front end, what is the most efficient way for us to do check-in, check-out? What's the most efficient way for us to present treatment plans? When we're doing treatment, what does the layout look like? Do you want a counter on both sides? And tell me why you want a counter on both sides. You got to push them because these things cost money. And is it a want to have or a need? So it's important to involve the whole team if you've got a trusted team around you to really get what you want.
Well, let's I want to kind of pivot then. So what we've covered is like due diligence. We covered architect and that process. I'd love to ask the questions that like the question of this idea of a hard bid. The hard bids are becoming few and far between these days. There's a lot of reasons for it. Back in the day, there used to be what I call the negotiated bid, where you could just talk about a percentage and then it would be open book. That's old school. But like this idea of like hard bid, I think there's a lot of challenges with it that we've kind of already talked about this week. What do you find when you get like this high-end architect that isn't sensitive to budget? How does that impact the hard bid process when it hits your desk and you bid it out based on what was provided to you, and then the number obviously isn't really where everybody wanted it to be? Can you go through that process, or how you communicate that to the dentists out there?
Yeah, communication is key. I always say C is the most important. C for communication is the most important C in construction, right? Everybody has to be reading from the same sheet of music, and you want to make sure that as you've got design development, this speaks to what we talked about. You go back and, this makes sense. And because the worst thing you want is, okay, we started here, startup dentist, Medicaid. To your point earlier, why do we have a fountain in the waiting room? Like, who's that for? Like, I'm not sure. This is the plastic surgeon's office. What are we doing? So you want to speak to the level of service they provide. What we do when that happens, and it does happen, is we identify those things. And like, I always use a simple example of, they do a crazy laundry area that's built in. It costs like $4,500. It looks beautiful. And I'm like, let's spend your money front of house. Let's spend your money on lab sterile treatment, reception, patient waiting room. And let's make sure that we spend your dollars in the smart places, right? It doesn't mean that the back of house areas are dumbed down or that the break room needs to be subpar. It just needs to be nice enough, right? Because really what's bringing patients back are your staff and then just the environment that you bring them into to do practices and selling cases. I'll just use the example of my father-in-law. He practiced for 25 years in a retail center, great dentist. We built him that building. I could throw a football from his retail old location to the new location. He quadrupled his practice in 2 years. And he told me one time at a holiday party, it's funny in my new building, he goes, people walk in and it's nice, but it's not over the top. But all of a sudden, the level of my office finish tells people I'm a good dentist, right? So it gives them confidence to spend big money on larger cases, right? So the environment you work in is great. And again, speaking to Medicaid and Medicare, you want those to be very nice. You want them to be back of house to be hard, durable surfaces, very functional, long lasting. But, maybe we don't have a coffee bar. Maybe we have just a beverage bar. Pull those things out and we say, hey, Doc, I love this. What you don't want to do is get into let the architect, if you're working as a team, you don't want them to get so far down the road that when you say, hey, wow, this is a great design, but you're here, you can afford this. And then you get design regret. And then the rest of it feels like a compromise to them because the architect has gone bananas with, oh, well, yeah, you like that wallpaper? We can do this wallpaper here and there, and let's do this niche, and let's do this artwork, and let's do these vaulted ceilings, and all those things that cost money but take away from their patient base, take away from their vision, take away from their bottom line.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I would describe the situation, because you can really get off kilter quick with budget. And if that's why I made that joke earlier about, do architects really pay attention to budget? Of course they do. But when you're a startup, and if an architect, I think that's a good question to ask an architect, space planners. How many startups do you do a year? Dental startups do you do a year? Because if the number is a lot, let's just say 5. Let's just say, hey, I do 5 startups a year. Then they know how to design a budget-friendly startup. They also know that you can't afford all glass, and you can't afford the curved walls and all that. So, and it's really tough for a contractor to have that conversation, because they're already thinking that Chad's the guy that's making all the money and with all the margin, but really it's a lot of it is the design features. All right, let's pivot. Let's pivot to the last question, the last topic here. And that is, where do you see construction right now? Like kind of like a market watch. Where are we at with construction? I mean, there's a lot of conversations that people asking me all the time. Like, no, I definitely don't want to get political on the show, but with the tariffs and there was a problem with inflation a minute ago. My eggs are still $10. I don't know what's going on there. But whatever, is that affecting construction right now? And are you seeing projects slow down, pick up? What are you seeing out there?
We've got a great backlog. I'm seeing about the same, right? Number of projects. It was funny, right around the first of the year, we got all these scary tariff notices, and I had a steel guy on a vet space we were doing, and he said, well, unfortunately, because of the tariff, this has gone up 35%. So quick AI search, the tariff is 12%. And the 12% tariff does not mean a 12% increase in cost, right? There's many factors that go into that I won't deep dive into. It usually boils down to, by the time it gets to that guy, a 3 to 5% increase. So I sent it back to him and said, hey, I'm only seeing a 12% tariff. He never got back to me. So a lot of suppliers will use that as an example, right? One of the best things that came out of COVID was it made us more creative. So that was a bigger blow to everything, because literally we had rooftop units that were 8 months out. You've got a 12 to 14 week build. That doesn't work. So what we learned to do there is we've got a rooftop unit and it's brand A. We would find brand B that is same performance, might cost a little less, might cost a little bit more. You never know. But, you know, the opportunity cost of not being open makes a big difference. So we just go out and we source things, do that all the time. Did that with doors. We do we have a large veterinary practice we do in town, and simple doors. And we work with the biggest door manufacturer in the Western United States. They could not get these 8-foot maple doors for 14 weeks. I bought the doors from Minneapolis, and same cost with shipping. It's fine. Same door, looks great. So it just makes you more creative, keeps you on your toes. And same thing with tariffs. You just got to be creative and try to find other alternatives. And that's why that's the difference between we talked about delivery system a little bit. We might get in more into that later, but there's the traditional design, bid, build a model. And then there's the design build model where me and the doc and maybe the equipment rep and the architect for sure are sitting around a table and we're going, okay, what do we want to do? How many ops are we going to equip? What's the feel of the office? What's your vision? Do you have a Pinterest board? And then we're all, like I said, again, reading from the same sheet of music and we go down the road. We collaborate.
It's a collaboration. Yeah.
I
love that.
And at the end of the day,
No. At the end of the day, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say.
Well, at the end of the day,
go. It's your turn.
Well, at the end of the day, it's going to cost what it's going to cost for a startup at a specific location, and it's going to cost what it's going to cost for a oral surgeon at a specific location, right? To be done by a qualified contractor who knows what they're doing. I know a lot of guys give teaser rates for, square foot wise. Yeah. When the whole market is 250, they'll give a teaser rate of, well, this guy's 215. And, I never sell myself on my competitors. I always sell myself on service. I look at my job as education and communication, and I want my clients to know everything about the process. I want them to be as involved or as uninvolved as they want to be, but still make sure they get the right finished product they want. Yeah.
I love that, Chad. This is one thing that's, I think you nailed that. I think I agree with you. Projects are not slowing down. Startups are happening. Established doctors are remodeling, expanding, relocating, you name it. So I think the overall mood is if you want to make a move with your business, expand, make it better, get into business, do it. There's no better time than now because it's probably only going to go up from here. This is the last part. We're at a 40-minute mark, and I hope we haven't lost everybody on the drive. For the listener right now that's thinking about getting into ownership, not sure if they want to bet on themselves or what might have you, what's your tip for them? What advice do you have to business owners or future business owners, leadership wise?
Well, just do your homework, communicate clearly with the team, make sure you've got the right people in place that are looking out for your interests. Do your research, make sure you understand things. We love to look at leases. We love to be involved. I do a lot of free work up front. So, I can't tell you how many jobs I've taken to the goal line and never gotten, and I don't care. If my partners in the market get it and it's a winner for the doctor, I'm good with that. But what I don't want them to do is go down the wrong road. Business ownership is not to be taken lightly, and you want a contractor who is not afraid to tell you no. Because, example, I had a doctor say, gosh, you know what? We got 4 ops. I've got 2 equipped. I've got those other 2, and there's a little embarrassment, right? Which there shouldn't be. Those other 2 ops are empty, and I just kind of feel like, it wouldn't cost me much to equip those. And I go, Doc, that money right now is going to look way better in your account than it is in my mill workers account, in the dental equipment guy's account. And trust me, if you want to equip those ops, we build them to the point where they're plug and play. So literally all I need to do is send an electrician to wire the light. Other than that, dental guys can hook up everything and they can go. So I'm a big part of the bucket, but I know there's other parts of the buckets. There's operating capital, there's marketing, there's staff, there's signage, all those things that go into the picture. So you want a contractor who's not afraid to tell you, you know what, not now. And when I go to cut things, I try to cut things in a way that we can add later, right? So, man, this niche at the end of the hall, I really want this to be a waterfall, right? The water runs all the way down. Or I saw this really cool geode in Santa Fe, and I want to buy that and hang it down there. And I'm like, hey, Doc, let's get a print for now, right? And hang that up, and that'll be your gift for yourself at month 3 when you're killing it and you're expanding other ops. So
I love that.
That's the important thing, is just be honest with you and find somebody who's solution minded. I always pride myself on never sending a doc an email or a text at a Friday and say, oh man, bad news. Rooftop units are another 3 months out. I know we're supposed to open in 2 weeks. I'll find out more Monday. That's why I have the gray hairs, because I figure out how to make that happen. And then I'll bring them at least one solution. So if I know there's no way around it, it's going to cost them money right now, I tell them. If I can do that sausage making and then present them with the challenge and then the solution, I'd much rather do that than them to worry, because I know whatever I worry about day to day, they got 100 other things, because more times than not, they don't know what they don't know, right? About business, about construction. They're good dentists. It's no different than being a contractor when I started, right? I didn't know what I didn't know about being a GC. I knew what it was to be a great project manager, but there's all this other accounting piece. There's this marketing piece. And I did a lot of that before, but
I love that.
So really that's where the education piece comes in, and just find somebody you trust.
I think that's great advice. I think I love that. I don't think enough professionals out there say no, Chad, to your point. And I think that goes for all of us. My biggest job is to tell people no all the time, but I would love to share that responsibility with the contractor, the equipment people, all the people. And I think that's really good advice. And that tells you you've got a partner in this. It's not just a vendor, but a partner. And I think that's really key. Well, great interview, Chad. Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and investing in all of us today. Folks, I just want to give you another reminder that we need some reviews. Please pop us off a review if you can for a quick second, if you're Spotify or Apple Tunes. And stay tuned. We're gonna keep Shark Week rolling here this week and continue to give you great information about this whole idea of construction. Thanks so much, Chad, for being on the program. We're gonna put his contact below. If you have a question for Chad, yes. I know him. He would love to invest in you more. If you've got a question, he'll be happy to answer. So we'll put his contact info below. Thank you so much, Chad. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Good catching up, and thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Be good. Talk soon, guys.
Thanks for listening. Let us know how you like the show. Rate us on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe and follow for more.